We'll start with the chanting first, then we'll do our Nyaya class today. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Gananam Tva Ganpatigam Havamahi Kavim Kavinam Upamashavastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Ana Shrinvanutivi Siddha Sadhanam Om Shri Mahaganpataye Namaha Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir me sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we are starting this Nyaya class. We are into the fifth chapter now. The fifth chapter is about the logical fallacies. We have seen earlier in the previous class, we just entered the first and second sutras where we were trying to understand the kind of logical fallacy which comes under the broader category of what we call jati, right? So jati is when you put something into a category and then go on forward to derive certain common characteristics or certain conclusions about the nature of a substance, certain conclusions about a nature of a substance. So those conclusions then can be used by this what we call the jati prayog as a way of disputing the opponent. So jati, as we said, can be used by the one who is also we call the siddhantvadi, the one who is on the right, or also someone who is wrong. So someone who is putting forward a proposition, then that can be refuted by this jativadi in a bit to confuse that other person. So the process itself is not approved by Shastra, but it is allowed whenever we are needing to protect certain proposition where proof is not logically possible in all the normal ways. Some things are proved only by Shastra. So Shastra says that we have to accept logically we can proceed from that what sentence the Shastra is saying and go on to prove something. But purely on logic, sometimes we cannot prove it. So that for that case, it is allowed to use this jati prayog. But usually, the one who is doing the jati prayog, he can be called out. He can be called out that you are using this kind of jati prayog. So someone who is learned, who knows about the different kinds of jati prayog, he will be able to call out anyone who is refuting him. He'll be able to tell that, yes, you are using this jati prayog. So you cannot refute my proposition in this way. The main thrust of the argument, main thrust is what? Is that someone is putting forward a proposition, other one is refuting him in a way that he is not proving anything new of his own. That is the main thing in jati. In main thing in jati is he is not proving anything new of his own. He's just proving something that the opponent has that the first person has said. He's just saying something opposite to that. So he's just refuting. He's saying you are wrong, but he's not saying what is right or proving what his own statement is by any kind of logic, right? So that is not a sufficient method to prove something, right? If you are saying that there will be rain tomorrow, so for that you will give the different meteorological meteorological states. This is happening, right? So someone can say it will not rain tomorrow. So just by using confusing logic, he cannot prove his point. He will have to have his own proof also. So for that, there has to be a proper system. So just by refuting or denying one person's proposition, you cannot prove your, of course, the first person's is also not proved. Okay. So let's not take this in this way. I have said and I was not able to prove, you disproved my statement, but that is not the proper way. The first person will also have to give further proofs, right? But in some cases, he will not need to give further proof only in the case where the Jativadi is using such a tactic whereby he is not only proving anything of its own, the jati itself is leading to a wrong conclusion. So there are those also, those kind of jati also, which will come under, we will see Sanshay Prakaran, Hetvartha. So that is going to come later on. But right now we'll start with the first few. So we have seen this all these 24 kinds of jatis. So sadharmya, vaidharmya. So remember, as I told you in the previous class, this whole sentence has the 24 jatis. At the end of it is the word samaha. So samaha you have to add with everyone. So sadharmya is not a jati. The sadharmya is proving something by using common properties. Sadharmya is not a jati, but sadharmya sama, you are using something similar to sadharmya, but it is actually not sadharmya. And by it, you are not able to prove something. That is the sadharmya sama. So sadharmya sama, vaidharmya sama, utkarsha sama, apkarsha sama, varnya, avarnya, vikalpa, sadhya, prapti, and all these 24 words. So all of these will, I'm not enunciating here. We read this earlier. And of course, we will be discussing each one separately. So we'll come to that. So the second sutra starts with the first kind of jati. So sadharmya vedharma dharma abhyam upsamhare tat dharma viparyaya upapattehe sadharmya vedharmya samo. So this we saw also, even saw the first argument here. So here what is being said is there are two kinds of jatis, sadharmya sama and vedharmya sama. So all in these two kinds of jatis, the refutation is done in two different ways. Tat dharma viparyaya, opposite in whatever is being said about the properties of an object, dharma, that dharma, tat dharma viparyaya. That dharma is then used in another example and it is refuted. So sadharmya, vaidharmya are refuted. So sadharmya, you can use this English word homogeneity or having common properties. Vaidharmya is heterogeneity or having opposite properties. So both of these will give us certain examples are given where we can just look at them. So in this text actually there are two examples, but we'll be doing four. Why? Because sadharmya, vaidharmya have four kinds of refutations. The two kinds of jati will have four kind of refutation. What are the four? First is sadharmya is refuted by sadharmya itself. Using the common property of two objects, then that same common property of a third object you use to prove the opposite. Then sadharmya can be proved wrong by vaidharmya. So vaidharmya, you are using opposing properties to prove the first one wrong. Then similarly for Vedharmya, where you are using opposite properties, that also can be refuted. Vedharmya can be refuted using Vedharmya, and Vedharmya can also be refuted using Sadharmya. So these are the four kinds. So we'll just quickly look into that. So first one is Sadharmya will be refuting by Sadharmya. So how do we do that? This example we saw in the last class. I'm just repeating it. So because we'll continue with this into the next points also. So we saw the Pancha Avyava, the fivefold process of logic that is applied in all kinds of Nyaya arguments. So that fivefold rule that we saw is that we have whenever we need to prove something, there has to be what we call a pratigya. Pratigya. So note this word clearly because we will use some similar words also. So pratigya, hetu, दृष्टांत, then उपनय और निगमन. प्रतिज्ञा, हेतु, दृष्टांत, उपनय and nigaman. So these are the five steps. Pratigya is you bring up a proposition. Then hetu, you give a reasoning or cause for that. Then drishtant, you give an example where to illustrate that drishtant, illustrate that cause, and then upnaya or is upnaya establishes the relationship between the two. So just like you said, there is a smoke on the hill. Hmm. So there must be fire. So the your pratigya is there is fire on the hill. What is the hetu? Because there is smoke also. What is the drishtant? Just like there is smoke in the kitchen where there is a fire, so similarly it should be there on the hill. Upnaya is wherever there is smoke, there is fire, or wherever there is fire, there is smoke. Hmm. No, not no. Wherever there is smoke, there is fire. Because there can be fire without smoke also. Oh. Yeah. So wherever there is smoke, there is fire. And then Nigman is the final conclusion. It is in fact the repetition of the pratigya. You can just add the word thus proved. Thus proved, wherever there is smoke, there is fire. So I've asked you to write these five down. Why? Because pratigya, hetu, drishtant, upanaya, and Nigman. In this text, we will be using some words that mean the same. So I will repeat it for you, don't worry. But you just have to keep in mind. So pratigya can also be called sadhya. The thing that needs to be proved. Sadhya. जिसको हमने साधना है, whatever we have to prove. And then again, hetu is cause. So for that you use karan. We also use upakaran because hetu involves an instrument. Hetu is an instrument. And then sadhan. Sadhan also is in a way an instrument, or it is a means of doing something, right? So my body is a instrument of myself, of my consciousness. It is also sadhan. It is a means. Sadhan is a means. Then Upanaya, Dristant has one name only. Then maybe I'll see if some other meaning comes up. And then Upanaya involves what we call a Vyapti. So Upanaya is comparison. So whenever we are saying wherever there is smoke, there is fire, then the word we use exactly for that is Vyapti. So Vyapti I explained earlier also. Vyapti means something that has a one-to-one relationship with that. Wherever there is smoke, there is fire means every case there has to be the same. But the reverse cannot be possible. In the reverse case, what will happen? Wherever there is fire, there may be smoke, right? So not necessarily. So that is called alpavyapti. That is called alpavyapti. So it is not always going to be the case. And there is another case which we call ativyapti. So in ativyapti, we use an example where the first case is there, but in the second case, it may be more possibilities also. So in this one, there is less possibilities. Wherever there is fire, there is some fires will have smoke. But you can have a different one like wherever there is fire, the byproducts will be this. So you will say the byproduct will be ash, but the byproduct may be coal. The byproduct may be burnt wood. So that is what we call ativyapti. Whatever you are saying, there can be more products also arising out of that example, right? So in this too, we have seen in this fivefold process. Now, when we are looking at the first example here for Sadharmya, so the Sadharmya, the opponent is going to give his pratigya. The first person, we here the name we'll give to him is the Vadi. The Vadi. The one who Vad means the one who is giving his argument. So this Vadi is saying Atma has Kriya or action, like a stone. Atma has kriya or action like a stone. So what is the hetu for that? The hetu is this is so because Atma is a dravya or a substance. Similarly, stone is also a dravya or a substance. So a substance can have motion when something else imparts an impetus to it. कोई भी चीज उसको push करती है, something that pushes it. So because Atma is also a dravyam, this stone is also a dravyam because Atma is a different kind of substance. It is the only substance actually. It is everything else exists within it. So there Swatmani Kriya Bhavat rule that we saw in Vedanta, through that we can prove that nothing can impart an impetus to it because there is nothing apart from it that can impart an impetus to it. So that logic we are not using. Right now we are using only the logic that is given here. So the Vadi is saying through his sadhya, Atma has kriya or action. hetu. That is because Atma is a dravya or a substance. A substance can have motion when something else imparts an impetus to it. So what is the vyapti here? The vyapti is whatever has conjunction can move. Whenever there is a conjunction between two objects, one can move the other. Hmm. So the what will the drishtan that whatever we have seen in no common course also, whenever there is some object that is lying on the ground, we can push it and it will move. So that is the drishtan. And then the conclusion, the nigman is there. Therefore, it has the properties of conjunction. That is, Atma has the properties of conjunction and can move like a stone when it is imparted an impetus. Because stone when it is imparted an impetus, stone को जब धक्का लगता है, stone when it is pushed, it moves. So similarly, we will say because Atma is also a dravya and it has the property of conjunction. It can have conjunction with the objects of the universe. So we will say it will move. So then this has to be refuted by the Jativadi. The Jativadi is the one who will come next into the argument. So what is he going to say? This is refuted by this argument that he will say Atma doesn't have action. So he will say because now logically we can understand now because we know that Atma has no finite location. It is all pervasive. So movement is not possible within it. So just like space is a dravya and all pervasive and it has no action. So space also cannot move. So that in that way you can prove it. But right now the Jativadi is going to prove the opposite. So what does he say? He says that we can take the compare. Now we have to remember sadharmya we have to use similar properties. So now we said that Atma is a dravya, the stone is a dravya. So he says we can take the comparison with Akash. So he says, just like the stone is a dravyam, Atma is a dravyam, Akasha is also a dravyam. So Akash is a dravyam, it is Vibhu. Akash is Vibhu means all pervading. So Akash doesn't have any kind of movement. So therefore, Atma is without Kriya. So here actually our Jativadi is the right person. He is the one doing the right proof. Right. So it's not always that the Jativadi would always be the wrong person. Right. So now what is happening? Thus, both can't prove their point, but using Sadharmya sum, the Vadi is not allowed to establish his point. So this is Jati Prayog. This is Jati Prayog of Sadharmya Sama as the Vadi has been refuted, the first person has been refuted, but the opponent, he has not proved anything of its own, right? So then we come into the second part. So using Vedharmya to prove Sadharmya Sama. So the opponent is using opposite qualities here. He will use opposite qualities to prove that Atma has no action. So now what is the initial proposition? That is the same. We'll keep the same example. So we'll give the same example. Initial proposition is the same. Is it clear so far? This part we did actually in the last week also. George, Manisha, Anita, is it clear so far? The first example? Yes. Okay. Manisha, George,
Yes,
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's basic, very simple stuff actually. But because the language is a bit, technical, so you feel like that way. But nothing very complicated about it. So we'll just move on to the second part. Second part, the same proposition, initial proposition, the pratigya. The pratigya or the proposition or the theorem is the same that Atma is with Kriya, like a clod of earth, like a stone or a clod of earth. So now here the Jativadi is using opposite property. So what will he say? The Jativadi says that the clod is with parts, right? You can see the parts, you can divide it into small parts. But Atma is not with parts. Atma doesn't have parts. So Atma cannot have Kriya, right? So Atma cannot have Kriya. So if Atma has properties opposite to the clod, then why can't we accept that it also have the opposite nature with regards to Kriya? So now remember what is happening here. Remember clearly, Jativad, the Vadi has proved, Vadi has given an example and proved Atma has Kriya. Jativadi has given an example that the Atma doesn't have Kriya, but both have not conclusively proved anything. And so that example. So I will not repeat this again and again, but that is the general method of proceeding with any prakriya. So this is the use of what we call Vedharmya. Vedharmya or opposite qualities to prove the to disprove the Vadi. So simple, Vadi says Atma is with Kriya because it is a Dravyam and it like a clod of earth. But the Jativadi is saying the clod of earth has parts. Atma is doesn't have parts. So the one with parts can have motion. The one without parts cannot have motion. क्रिया नहीं होती. Yes, it is right. Yeah, the Jativadi is, in this case, the Jativadi is right actually. So I'm telling you, it will not always be the, yeah, the Atma is the seer, is the Drashta. So Atma cannot have parts or it cannot have motion. But yeah, deliberately this example I've chosen to show that Jati can be used by the wrong person also, but it can also be the one with the right argument. But still he has to prove it. So here also conclusive proof is not been coming through, right? So this is the sadharmya being disproved by vedharmya. So now, as I said again, the Jativadi is giving no special reason. So he's again he's unable to prove anything of its own. So now we will use Vedharmya. Vedharmya, with Vedharmya will place a Siddhant. We will place one proposition and disprove. So here the Vadi is saying Atma is Vibhu. Atma is all pervading and without Kriya, as opposed to Claude, which is not Vibhu and with Kriya. So the same set of things is again being used again, but you can understand the slight difference. So here we are using Vedharmya to place the proposition. So in this proposition, what is the Vedharmya? Atma being Vibhu, whereas Claude is not Vibhu. So Vedharmya. Both have opposing qualities. So we are saying that Claude has motion, Atma will not have motion. So in this case, what is happening? The Vadi is right. Right? The Vadi, first person is right. The Jativadi is wrong. But he will still prove his point. So the Jativadi will say now, but the Vadi has said Atma is Vibhu and without Kriya, as opposed to the clod of earth, which is not Vibhu and with Kriya. So Jativadi will say what? Akash doesn't have the guna of Sanyoga or conjunction and is without Kriya. So it doesn't have Kriya. So Atma is with Kriya as it is with Chaitanyam and Akash is not. So he is using Vedharmya Sama opposition Jati. So using Vedharmya to disprove Vedharmya. So the Vadi said what? That Atma is all pervading and so it is without Kriya because the clod or clod of earth is not all pervading and it is with Kriya. So the Jativadi will say he will give the opposite. He will give the Vedharmya example of Akasha having the doesn't have the guna of Sanyoga and without Kriya. So it doesn't have Kriya. Atma he will say is with Kriya. And as it is with Chaitanyam and Akasha is not. So he's using the property, opposing property of Chaitanya. Chaitanya. So Chaitanya Akash में है कि नहीं? Does Akash have Chaitanya? No, Akash doesn't have Chaitanya. Atma has Chaitanya. Right? So Akash has Chaitanya. Atma has Chaitanyam. Sorry, I am also confusing myself. Atma has Chaitanyam. Akash doesn't have Chaitanyam. Hmm. And then Akash has the Akash doesn't have the property of conjunction and it doesn't have also Kriya. So using these opposing properties, he's saying that Akasha has guna of Sanyoga or conjunction and is without Kriya. So if Akash is without Kriya, he is proving Atma has Kriya. Atma is Kriya how? Because Atma has the opposite property to Akash, that it has Chaitanyam. So Atma is not like Akash. Atma is not like Akash. So therefore, its property also will not be like Akash. That means he is saying that Atma is with Kriya. So if Akash doesn't have Kriya, he is proving Atma has Kriya. You didn't get it. I'll repeat. So the Jativadi, the Vadi was saying Atma, he said Atma is Vibhu and without Kriya, as opposed to the clod which is not Vibhu and with Kriya. That is the proposition. ये जो फर्स्ट स्टेटमेंट है वादी का so the Vadi is saying that Atma is without Kriya. Okay. Vadi is saying Atma is without Kriya Okay. So what is the reasoning he's giving? He's using Vaidharmya or opposing qualities. So Atma is all pervading, hmm, where clod of earth is not all pervading. So clod has motion, right? Clod has motion.
If it is pushed.
If it is pushed, it has motion. Cloud can have motion. Cloud can move. But Atma has opposite qualities to the cloud because it is Vibhu while the stone is not Vibhu. So that means Atma has Kriya. Atma doesn't have Kriya. Cloud has Kriya, Atma doesn't have Kriya. दोनों में opposing properties है. Both have opposing properties. One is Vibhu, one is not. One is Kriya, one has Kriya, other doesn't have Kriya. Right? So here said that the Atma is without Kriya. This is the right. In this case, here the Vadi is right. The first person is right. So now the Jativadi will do what? The Vadi has proved Atma is without Kriya. So he has to prove what? The opposite. He has to prove that the Jativadi has to prove that Atma Atma has Kriya. Right? Jativadi has to prove Atma has Kriya. So, and what is the process he'll use? Opposing qualities, Vedharmya Sama. He has to use Vedharmya with Vedharmya. We are using refuting here. So the Jativadi will use Vedharmya. Uh, so he will use two opposing properties in Akash and in Atma. So first one he will say Akash doesn't have the guna of Sanyoga or conjunction. Akash में conjunction नहीं है. It cannot combine with anything. You throw anything in the space, the Akash will not hold on to it. So Akash cannot have conjunction. So and now this Akash doesn't have Kriya also. Yeah. So Akash doesn't have Kriya. So Akash doesn't have Sanyoga, it doesn't have Kriya. Now we come to Atma. So Atma, he's saying is Atma has Chaitanyam. So Atma is opposite to Akash in that respect. है ना? So now if Akasha doesn't have Kriya, Atma is opposite to Akash, then Atma will have Kriya. आकाश में क्रिया नहीं है. Akash doesn't have.
तो उसमें क्रिया होगी.
So Kriya will hogi. So he is proving through Vaidharmya Sama that Atma has Kriya. Right. So here in this case the Jativadi is wrong actually. Right. But we have to call out the mistake of both people. So he has also again not proved. So by this process, two opposite conclusions have been reached. None of them is conclusive. Two opposite conclusions have been. None of them is conclusive. So this is Vaidharmya Sama opposition using Vaidharmya to oppose Vaidharmya. So is this clear again? I'll just keep asking because I hope I'm making sense. Manisha, George, Anita, this part is okay? Using Vaidharmya to prove Vaidharmya?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Could you go through it again? So in terms of Nishkriya and Samyoga.
Mm-hmm. In terms of?
In terms of Nishkriya, so non-action and Samyoga. So how does Samyoga necessitate Nishkriya?
Sanyoga doesn't necessitate Nishkriya. We are saying that anything that has Sanyoga will have Kriya. Okay? So I can push this mobile or stone or whatever is lying before me. So by Sanyoga, I can impart Kriya to that. Right? Now Akash, we are saying Akash doesn't have Sanyoga. Akash cannot combine. So that means Akash doesn't have Kriya. Akash doesn't have the property of conjunction. Right? So that is the statement we are using to say Akasha doesn't have Kriya. Right? So when Akash now, what is the other property of Akash? It is also all-pervading, Vibhu. And the Atma also has the all-pervading property. But now when we are using the Jati Prayog, when we are using, because what is the Vadi saying? That he's saying that Atma is without Kriya. Atma doesn't have Kriya because it is all-pervading, whereas the clod, which is not all-pervading, it has Kriya. So Claude has conjunction. Claude is not all pervading. Claude has Kriya. But Atma is all pervading. So it doesn't have Kriya. Right? So here we are not bringing conjunction into the picture. We are saying simply that Vibhu or all pervading, by all pervading nature, Atma is all pervading, stone is not all pervading. So Vedharmya, we are using Vedharmya here, right? And then because we are using
Makes sense,
Vedharmya
yeah.
through that, the Vadi, the first person, remember, the first person is proving that Atma is without Kriya. Right now, the Jativadi is going to prove the opposite. He has to prove that Atma has Kriya. Right? Atma has Kriya. So, for him to prove has Kriya, it has Kriya, he will be using the property of consciousness. Right? So, Atma has consciousness. Akash doesn't have consciousness. So now first we said Akash doesn't have the guna of sanyoga or conjunction and is without kriya, right? So that is accepted by the Jativadi. He says that Akash doesn't have conjunction and so it is without kriya. So now I will say, I will compare it to Atma. So Atma is opposed to Akash in the sense that it has Chaitanyam, and so Atma doesn't have Chaitanyam, and Atma has Chaitanyam, and Akash doesn't have Chaitanyam. So in that respect, because we will similarly the property also will have to become opposite now, right? So Akasha doesn't have Kriya, but Akasha doesn't have Kriya, uh, and it also is not Chetan. Akash is not Chetan. So now the Atma, when we are coming, will do the opposite of both things. So Atma has Chaitanyam, opposite to Akash. Atma has Chaitanyam. So then again, Atma is with Kriya. Because Akash is without Kriya, so opposite property will come to Atma. So Atma is with Kriya. That is what the opponent is proving. Did this become clear now? I know it's a bit confusing. Yeah, it is confusing, but if you apply your mind to it, it will make sense. Actually, you have to write it down. That's how I like to do it. You write it down, no, so then it becomes easier. Right. So we are using opposing properties here make a proposition, make a statement. We are using opposite properties, make the statement that the Atma is Vibhu and without Kriya, whereas the Claude, which is not Vibhu and with Kriya. So then the Jativadi is proving through opposing properties again that the Akash doesn't have the guna of Sanyoga or conjunction and is without Kriya. So Atma is with Chaitanyam. So it will be opposite to what the property of Akash. So Akash has the property of not being with Kriya. So Atma is with Kriya. Right? So actually Atma is not with Kriya. So he has proved something wrong. So in this case, the Jativadi is wrong. So this is Vaidharmya Sama opposition Jati, using Vaidharmya to oppose Vaidharmya. Now we will use the final one, the fourth one, using Sadharmya to disprove Vedharmya. This exercise you can do on your own if you just pay attention to what we have proved so far. But we'll just go ahead with that. So now again, using Sadharmya to disprove Vedharmya. So first what will come? Vedharmya only. Vedharmya will be there. But earlier the Vedharmya was disproved using Vedharmya. Now Vedharmya will be proved wrong by using Sadharmya. So the initial proposition will remain the same. Atma is Vibhu, Atma is all pervading and without Kriya, as opposed to the Claude, which is not all pervading and has Kriya. Yeah. So Claude is not Vibhu, not Claude is not all pervading. So it has Kriya, but Atma is all pervading. It so it is without Kriya. That is the initial proposition. So again, the Jativadi will do what? He will use Sadharmya here. So similar properties. So he says Atma has the property of conjunction with other objects. So it has Kriya, just like a spring and a projectile. So if you are using a spring to push a projectile, it has the property of conjunction and it will project that projectile. So he says Atma has the property of conjunction because Atma, by its presence, causes movement. So through Atma only, all movements is possible. So Atma has the property of conjunction with other objects. So he's saying it has Kriya. So using Sadharmya Sama, he has given the opposite proof because the initial proposition was what? The initial proposition was that um, आत्मा इज विदाउट क्रिया, आत्मा में क्रिया नहीं है, बिकॉज इट इज ऑल परवेडिंग, बट वेर एज अपोज टू द क्लॉड विच इज नॉट ऑल परवेडिंग बट हैज क्रिया. So the Jatiwadi says no, Atma has the property of conjunction with other objects, so it has Kriya, just like a spring and a projectile. So he is comparing here the similar property of Atma with conjunction to the property of that stone with conjunction. So what is the reality actually? The properties of an object are seen as attached to itself. Hence the properties of action reside in the objects, like the stone. So actually, Atma has no properties. Atma is nirguna. Atma is nirguna. So if there is motion, then the motion has to happen. The property of conjunction has to actually reside in the stone. It is not in the Atma. The Atma by its mere presence is causing it to happen. Just like this, in the presence of the sun, you can produce electricity. You can, the sunflower will move towards it. Just by its mere presence, it is happening. It is not making it happen. So the property doesn't reside in Atma. The property resides in the stone. So we will see why now this is wrong, why this jati is wrong. We will look into the sutra which is going to say why jati prayog is wrong. So go gotvat go siddhivat tat siddhi. Gotvat go siddhivat tat siddhi. So just like we say the proof of sadhya sam is like proving cowness from a cow. What does this mean? This means that if you have to prove that an object is a cow, we will have to prove all the properties of the cow exist in that object. So then it is a cow. So if we use only partial qualities, then a fallacy can occur. If you use only partial properties, then a fallacy can occur. So like what? Like if you say that this animal is a cow because the cow has tail and horns. Tail and horns. So tail and horns, who can have tail and horns? Buffalo can also have tail and horns. The tail and horns can also belong to the rhino. Yeah, so many animals, right? So their vyapti is not there. We will call ati vyapti is happening. At vyapti is not there. The exact one-to-one set of comparison is not happening, right? So if you prove that an animal is a cow as it has a tail and horns, then buffalo can also have the same properties. You can prove something, some unique property you can use, some unique property that you can use. So by which you can say that this is an animal. Like this cow has what we call, there is a gal kambal, we call it in Sanskrit or Hindi. There is a flap of skin below the neck. So that is unique. So using that you can say, right? So sometimes we are saying that you don't need to this sadhya sam and vedharmya sam are not the right way to proceed. Why? Because using one or two properties, you cannot reach a conclusion. But if there is a unique property, through that you can reach a conclusion, right? So that is why proving something to sadhyasam is like proving the cowness of a cow, or proving that an object, that an animal before you is a cow, using one or two properties, right? Using one or two properties, you are trying to prove that it is a cow. So this uh, this commonness is there. So you can explore in many ways. So you can say that this is a cow and it will give milk. Then you see another cow, it will also give milk. So can you conclude that another animal is also a cow? No, a goat can also give a milk. No? So you cannot say if two animals give milk, then both are cow. So you you use the properties as a base to compare objects and say two members of the same species will have the same property, but you cannot say if two objects have a few common properties, then both are the same. So again, the example has to be what we call has to have a vyapti. So vyapti. So just like you can say in vyapti, fire has heat both in the belly and in the fireplace. So it is a fire because it has heat there. So you can say that. But if you go for Ati Vyapti. So in Ati Vyapti, what will happen is if you are comparing the properties of Akasha and Prithvi. So whatever the properties you are comparing, then Prithvi will have how many properties? Anyone knows from Tattva Bodha or other classes? Manisha, George. पृथ्वी में कितने प्रॉपर्टीज होती हैं? हाउ मेनी प्रॉपर्टीज पृथ्वी हैज? हाउ मेनी प्रॉपर्टीज आकाश हैज? कितने गुण होते हैं? हाउ मेनी गुणस?
Sorry, is it for Prithvi, is it five? Because it has, is it in terms of the senses or the indriyas that can perceive that
Yeah, the
element?
number of senses that can grasp that. Yeah, so five you are saying for Prithvi.
Yes, yeah, five, and then I guess for Jalam, four, and
Yeah, right.
Agni,
It's right.
three, and
Prithvi has five properties, right? All five. Akash has only one property, right? Akash has only one property. So here you are having Ati Vyapti. Ati means more, right? So you are comparing. So you cannot say that if an object has the property of sound, then it is Akash. Because Prithvi has also the property of sound. In fact, all the other four elements also have property of sound. Right? So you cannot say. So that is Ati Vyapti. Right? So in that case, and then when you use the reverse, that is Alpa Vyapti. So you cannot. So if you are comparing Prithvi and Akash, right? So you cannot say that by comparing one property that this object is Akash only because Alpa Vyapti. It has lesser properties. It has only one property. So in this way, the proof is incomplete and you can reach a wrong conclusion. Hence, in Sadhyasam, using common properties is sometimes not enough. You have to prove that this property is unique to the object. Or otherwise, you have to say that this actually is a cow. So from that you can say a cow. What is the uniqueness of a cow? You can talk about the wholeness of the cow. It gives milk. It has this neck on the neck. It has this uh, skin which is hanging down.
Yeah.
And all using all those properties, you can say that this is a cow. But there is a unique property or two through which you can say that this belongs to this animal only. So proving sadhyasam is like proving the cowness of a cow using dissimilar properties, using what we call insufficient properties or using lesser properties, right? So in that way. Okay, so George is listening. Okay, no issues. So I hope the clarity is there so far.
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we'll go into the next one, the fourth one quickly. So the fourth one is Sadhya Drishtanta Yoho Dharma Vikalpat Ubhaya Sadhyatvat Cha Utkarshat Apkarsh Varnya Avarnya Vikalpa Sadhya Samaha. So here now we are taking all together five kinds of fallacies, five kinds of fallacies. Sorry. Okay, so the subject and the example, sadhya and drishtant. Sadhya we saw the thing that has to be proved, right? Sadhya. So sadhya is what we said the pratigya. So I told you, there are common words in the beginning for sadhya. Sadhya you can use pratigya also. So pratigya is also sadhya. Sadhya is the thing to be proved. So the sadhya is the subject and drishtant is the example. Sadhya and Drishtant Yoho, both of them they dharma vikalpat. If you alternate their qualities, alternate their properties, dharma is a property of knowledge. Ubhaya sadhyatvat utkarsh apakarsh varnya avarnya vikalpa sadhya sama. So they're using this kind of jati prayog, you can confuse an opponent. These are the kind of the five kinds of fallacies: balancing an addition, balancing a subtraction. So balancing an addition, utkarsha sama; balancing a subtraction, apakarsha sama; balancing the questionable, varnya sama; uh, balancing the unquestionable, avarnya sama; and balancing the alternative, and balancing the reciprocity. These are the vikalp and sadhya sama. So when we are looking at all of these five, and of course sadhya sama also you can include. Sadhya will be reputed separately, so we'll look into this. So now we'll just quickly look at all of these one by one. So here we are going to go for the first one. First one is Utkarsh Sama. That is the jati we are going to talk about. So first we have to understand what is Utkarsh Sama. Utkarsh is more, addition. Utkarsh, upar utna, to rise up. Utkarsh. So basically what it involves is Utkarsh Sama fallacy involves comparing objects which have one object with less qualities and another with more qualities, utkarsh, and then making a conclusion, then forming a conclusion which is wrong, which is actually the example of what we call ativyapti. Ativyapti wala example yahan aayega, utkarsh saman. So what is happening is something has to be proved by an example, then showing that the example can be used the opposite or multiple conclusion. This leads us to prove these fallacies relating to this. So these all these six kinds of fallacies are ones where we will say that the Vadi is proving something. Vadi kuch prove keh raha hai. So the opponent will say you whatever you are saying is one conclusion, but more conclusions can also be reached. So your proof is not right. That is how you will confuse. So that is how you will confuse the the Vadi, sorry, the Vadi. The Jativadi is the second person. Vadi is the first person, the one with the proposition. So jiski proposition hai, or the one who is giving a proposition, he can be refuted by these means, that is balancing the addition. So using more properties, balancing the subtraction where there are less properties, using questionable means, so that is varnya, using unquestionable means, that is avarnya. Then vikalp is using vikalp is a choice, alternative. So using you are saying this alternative is also possible. You are saying that, and then reciprocity, sadhya sama. So in reciprocity, what will happening? What will happen is you will replace the sadhya with the pratik, the sadhya, the thing to be proved with the thing with the drishtant. So you will interchange them. So we will come to that in the example. So don't worry about. So all these methods of proof have a flaw that they can use multiple conclusions. You can reach multiple conclusions. So like Utkarsh is there. Utkarsh is what? Showing if something has higher qualities, then what to say of one person with lower or X qualities. So like you are comparing Atma and Akash. Atma and Akash. So Atma has how many gunas? Zero.
Nirgun.
Nil. And you are comparing with Akash. Right. So here, what is happening? Utkarsh Sama, you are comparing an object with zero qualities with a person with one quality. So very close. So with very close, you can reach a wrong conclusion also. Right. Some people feel the Akash is infinite, but actually, is it infinite? No, it has a border at the edge of the universe. Only one universe is contained within one Akash. Right. So Akash has to end somewhere. So in this way, when you are using something with comparing something with less qualities with another with more qualities, then you can use a you can reach a wrong conclusion. Or you can say, like, you can similarly say Akash with Vayu, Akash has one, Vayu has two, and so on. So if something can be expressed like uh, any uh, sansarik vastu, any object of the world. So there the fallacy is what? There the fallacy is Varnya. Uh, you can express the qualities of any object you see in the world. So that conclusion can also can make you reach multiple conclusions, because all the objects of the world have multiple properties. So Varnya is that. Then Avarnya is something cannot be expressed. Avarnya is something that cannot be expressed. It is like Atma. Hmm. Like Atma. So if like Atma, in Atma, you cannot express the nature of Atma. So because of that, we can reach wrong conclusions, right? And then we have Vikalpa, where there is a choice. So Vikalpa, again, you can use naturally from the word itself, you understand that from Vikalp you can reach multiple conclusions. So there also the proof will never be sufficient. And then finally Sadhyasam. So Sadhyasam, you are reversing the position of Sadhya and Sadhan, or the Drishtant. The Drishtant is the sadhan or the mode. We saw different words for sadhan also earlier, sadhan, upkaran, and so on. So that is the Drishtant. So in Sadhyasam, we are reversing the position of Sadhya and Sadhan. So now let us look at them one by one. First of all, Utkarsh. Utkarsha Sama, right? Utkarsha Sama, we will use an example like we saw earlier also. Understanding, or is confusing? Okay. So we will do only one today because we are running out of time, but we will continue this later. So Utkarsh, we said earlier, comparing an object with one property and another with more properties. So Vadi is saying Atma is with Kriya, like a plot of earth, because both are Dravyam. That is, we have seen earlier multiple times. So this is the Vadi's position, right? So Vadi said what? Atma is with Kriya. Remember that. Hai na? Atma is with Kriya because it is like a clod, because both are Dravyam. Now, what is the Jativadi doing? He has to use Utkarshasam. He has to go compare something with more property. So he will say, but clod also has Sparsha Guna. Sparsha. You can touch. Yeah. So Atma also must have Sparsha Guna. And not logically. No, you are comparing Atma, and you are Atma is a Dravyam with Claude. And so from that you are deriving that conclusion that both are Dravyam. So this has Kriya, Claude has Kriya, so Atma is also Kriya. Now he's saying Claude has Sparsha Guna. Now Atma must also have Sparsha Guna. So you want to prove it doesn't have, if you want to prove that Atma doesn't have Sparsha Guna, you have to give a special cause or Vishesh Hetu, special example you have to give, right? So, like you can reach this kind of wrong conclusion in multiple ways. Like you can say, uh, Ishvara is a judge. Judge, he judges everyone. Yeah. So he is a judge like the judge in High Court. So like today's famous judges in the High Court, Supreme Court, who are giving all kinds of funny judgments. So human judges make a lot of mistakes. So that means Ishwar also makes a lot of mistakes. So it is Utkarsha Sama. It is Utkarsha Sama. In Utkarsha Sama, lot of ways you can see this. Huh? You can reach multiple wrong. So I was using only one example. So just going into a slightly different angle so that you can, you are bored of the lot of I know. But actually, no, why we have to use that, why we are forced to use that? Because that fallacy is like that only. So in all cases, it is not easy to find new examples. So maybe for some, I'll work harder and find new examples. But here, the simple thing is in Utkarsha Sama, Vadi is saying Atma is with Kriya and like a clod because both are Dravyams. Now the Jativadi is saying, but clod has Sparsha Guna, so Atma must also have Sparsha Guna. So you accept Atma has Sparsha Guna. Will you accept that? No, Atma doesn't have Sparsha Guna. So if you want to prove that it doesn't have Sparsha Guna, you have to give a special cause or Vishesh Hetu. You have to give a special cause to prove your point that it is with Kriya. Right? So in this way, he disproves. Just like you can use Utkarsha Sama to say that if Ishvara is a judge, like a human, then Ishvara will also have the corresponding fallacy, corresponding what we call prejudices that a human judge has, right? Human judges have a lot of prejudices, but actually the judge is not supposed to have prejudices. But because they are human, they make mistakes, they have prejudices. So you cannot say that Ishvara will also have prejudices because Ishvara has to be without any prejudice. Right? We saw the logic in the karma theory also that Ishvara cannot have any kind of prejudice because then if he is with prejudice, then he will also become a person of the universe. He will not be Ishvara, in fact. Right? He will cease being Ishvara if he is with Raga and Dvesha. So in this way, this Utkarsha Samajati is there. And from this Utkarsha Samajati, multiple conclusions will be reached. So these multiple conclusions can be denied can be used to deny the initial proposition. जो शुरू में कहा था, जो whatever was said in the beginning, it was denied. So similar logic will use for apakarsh, and then of course varnya, avarnya, and so on. Right? So we'll use that. So and then of course in the next sutra, why we will see why they are wrong. Right? So I hope it is clear for today the whatever we discussed. Manisha, George,
Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
yeah,
yes.
yes.
Okay. Any questions anyone wants to ask?
No.
No?
No.
No? Sure? Okay. Okay. So I hope you are enjoying this thing. I hope it's not getting too tedious. Okay. Okay, then we'll wind up for today. I'll just ask if there are any other questions later on. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha Hari Om.